Pause here, my beloved child, and listen with the part of you that can feel a storm before the first drop lands. Somewhere, right now, a message is forming, quietly, shakily, inside the hands of the one who has loved you longer than they have admitted to themselves. Not a perfect message. Not a polished one. But a real one. And before you ask how I know, notice what has already been changing. The air around your connection has gone tight, like a ribbon pulled too far between two fingers. You felt it in the pauses that linger too long, in the almost words, in the way your name seems to echo in rooms you haven't entered. But that's not what changed everything. Because the truth is this, my child, they didn't hold back because they didn't care. They held back because fear learned to speak in the voice of practicality. Fear put on a suit, carried a calendar, talked about timing and distance and dignity, anything that sounded reasonable enough to hide what was really happening. And you are not foolish. You sensed it. You simply refused to keep begging a silence to become a sentence. Not this time. It began in a place so ordinary it almost feels cruel, a public line, bright lights, people near enough to hear but far enough not to care. A coffee shop with glass windows that made everyone inside look like they were on display. A small bell above the door that rang every time someone entered, as if the world kept announcing arrivals while their heart was stuck at the edge of action. They hadn't planned to see you. That's the part that still makes their throat tighten. One moment they were staring at a menu board, pretending to consider oat milk versus regular, and the next. There you were, 2 steps away, reaching for napkins, your sleeve pushed up, your wrist bare, the same wrist they once wanted to hold when you laughed too hard. The barista called, "Next." And your soulmate's body betrayed them. A sharp inhale. A shift of weight. Their hand flexing like it had forgotten how to be calm. They told themselves to act normal, to let the moment pass. To be mature. To be practical. Yet when you turned, just slightly, and your eyes skimmed the room the way someone scans for exits and memories, something inside them lurched forward like a dog slipping its leash. Then something happened that made their hands go cold. You smiled at someone. Not them. Someone beside you, steady, familiar, unhurried. It wasn't a dramatic smile. That was the problem. It looked like peace. A voice behind them murmured, "You dropped your card." They didn't even look down at first. Their whole attention was on you, my beloved child, on the way you stood there like you had survived something private and decided you would never again bleed in public for someone who wouldn't speak. And before your soulmate could stop themselves, they stepped forward. Not boldly. Not gracefully. But honestly, like someone walking out of denial and into daylight. "Wait, please." You turned fully then. Your face didn't soften. It didn't harden either. It simply settled. Like a judge taking their seat. Your soulmate's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. They started, and their voice cracked in that humiliating way that happens when your heart gets involved. People were close enough to hear. A couple at a small table paused mid-sip. Someone pretending to scroll on their phone slowed their thumb. And then your soulmate said it. In public. Where pride has nowhere to hide. I love you. My child, it wasn't the way movies do it, no swelling music, no applause. Just the sound of their own truth hitting the air like a dropped glass. They didn't say it to trap you. They didn't say it to win. They said it because the lie of silence was starting to feel heavier than rejection. You didn't answer. Not immediately. And that was the surprise. Not that they confessed. But that you did not rush to hold it, to comfort it, to make it safe. Perhaps you remember your own voice in your head, the one you didn't let escape your mouth. Why now? And maybe beneath that, another line, sharper, truer, you hurt me. Your soulmate saw those words in your eyes as if they were subtitles under a film they didn't deserve to watch anymore. They tried to add something, anything, but their courage came in one sentence only. After that, all they could do was stand there, exposed, while the world kept ordering lattes. A coworker of theirs, someone who had come in behind them, leaned close and whispered, "Are you okay?" They nodded without looking away from you, as if moving their gaze would shatter whatever fragile bridge existed between your silence and their confession. And you, my beloved child, you did the holy thing. The difficult thing. You stepped back half a step. Not to punish. To breathe. To remember yourself. Then you said nothing at all, turned, and walked out into the daylight like someone who had finally understood that love without consistency is just hunger wearing perfume. But that's not where the story ended. That public moment did not give them peace. It gave them consequence. Night came like it always does, uninvited, unavoidable, and they found themselves alone in a room lit by a single lamp and the blue glow of their phone. Curtains drawn. Dishes left in the sink. The kind of silence that isn't restful, it's interrogative. They sat on the edge of the bed and replayed it frame by frame, your stillness, your restraint, the way you didn't perform forgiveness just because someone finally told the truth. Soft breath, they whispered into the empty room, "Not to you, not yet, I didn't mean to make you feel disposable." And immediately another voice rose inside them, the voice of self-defense, "I was busy. I was confused. I was protecting myself." But there is a detail you haven't considered, my beloved child. Protection can be a blade. They had protected themselves so well that they cut you every time they backed away without explanation. Intention versus impact, this is where grown souls get honest. They didn't intend to harm you. Yet you were harmed. They didn't intend to leave you waiting. Yet you waited. They didn't intend to make you doubt your worth. Yet you started checking your own reflection for flaws that were never there. And now, alone with the phone, their thumb hovered over your chat like it was hovering over fire. They didn't open it immediately. They couldn't. Because opening it meant facing proof, timestamps, unanswered questions, your patience slowly learning how to stop being patient. What if I waited too long? The thought came, sudden and nauseating. Not what if you forgive me? Not what if we get back what we had? What if I waited too long? That question is a turning point, my child. Because it is the first time fear stops sounding practical, and starts sounding like what it is, grief arriving early. They finally tapped your name. Your chat opened, and there you were, your words, your jokes, your softness, preserved in a scrollable archive like pressed flowers from a season they didn't deserve to keep. They scrolled up, fast at first, then slower. Their breathing changed when they saw the messages from months ago. You asking simple things, you offering small comforts, you trying to keep the connection alive without humiliating yourself. Then they reached the line that stopped them so completely their thumb froze. A single message from you, sent late one night, when you were tired of guessing, I can't keep making space for someone who won't choose it. My beloved child, that sentence was not angry. That's why it hurts them. It was clean. It was boundary. It was you finally stepping out of the role of understanding, and into the role of self-respecting. They stared at it until their eyes stung. And in that staring, empathy finally arrived, not the shallow kind that says, I feel bad, but the grown kind that says, I see what I did, and I will not call it love if I won't repair it. They imagined you speaking now, your voice steady, unromantic, words aren't enough. Then another imagined line, quieter but lethal. Don't make me your emergency exit. And the last one they feared because it sounded like closure, I'm done waiting. Almost. They locked their phone and pressed it to their forehead as if the device itself were heavy with consequence. Their chest tightened. Not because they wanted you back like a prize, because they realized you had been a person in pain while they were busy being careful. But that's not what changed everything. A memory surfaced, small, vivid, impossible to dismiss. Not a grand date. Not a dramatic confession. Just a tiny moment that had once terrified them because it revealed your heart too clearly. It was the day it rained without warning. You both had stepped out of a building, nothing special, just a work thing, errands, life. You had no umbrella. Neither did they. People ran past you, laughing, annoyed, hurrying to cars. You didn't run. You looked up at the sky like it was speaking, and you smiled, this soft, private smile, as if you were being reminded of something beautiful. Then you took off your jacket and held it over both of you, closer than necessary, not flirting, protecting. And you said, almost casually, it's okay. We'll get wet. We'll dry. My child, it wasn't the rain. It was the philosophy inside that sentence. The way you accepted discomfort without panic. The way you trusted that what's temporary doesn't have to become tragic. That was the moment they realized they loved you. Because your steadiness made them feel safe, and also exposed. People who have built their lives around control get frightened by someone who can endure. They had wanted to lean in. Instead, they joked. They changed the subject. They acted like their heart hadn't just stepped forward. And now, in the dim room, they finally understood, they didn't reject you. They rejected what loving you would require of them: consistency, transparency, courage. Then the world applied pressure. One realistic detail, delivered without ceremony, arrived like a sealed envelope slid under a door. They saw it on a screen first, a mutual acquaintance posting a photo, boxes in the background, your laugh in the corner of the frame. The caption was simple. Last week here. Big move soon. Big move. 2 words that can change the temperature of an entire life. Your soulmate's stomach dropped so fast they had to stand up. They paced. 3 steps. Turn. 3 steps. Turn. The room suddenly felt too small for the consequences they had been postponing. Perhaps you are moving for opportunity. Perhaps for healing. Perhaps because staying in the same city as someone who won't choose you starts to feel like living next to a locked door. And here is the cruel part, my beloved child, the moment they heard you might be leaving, love stopped being a feeling and became a deadline. They whispered, no, not to control you. Not to stop your life. But because permanent distance is what fear creates when it stalls long enough. A breakdown came, private and ugly, not the kind you would ever want to witness. They slid down the wall onto the floor, their back against paint that suddenly felt like a stranger's. Tears came, but not the theatrical kind. The kind that leaks out when a person realizes they have been the author of their own loneliness. I protected myself, they said aloud, and the words sounded like a confession and an accusation at the same time. Then, softer, as if speaking to a younger version of themselves. I protected myself from being seen. Because that is what you do when you fear love, my child. You delay it until it becomes unreachable, and then you call it fate, so you don't have to call it what it is, avoidance. But that's not what changed everything. A friend called them. Not because the universe arranged it with glitter. Because friends notice when you stop answering texts and start posting nothing at all. They answered on the second ring, voice rough. Their friend didn't waste time. Where are you? At home. A pause on the line, then the direct question that split them open, do you love them? Silence. Not because they didn't know. Because saying it would make it real. And then your soulmate finally said, yes. 1 syllable. A door unlocked inside them. Their friend exhaled like someone who had been waiting for honesty. Then stop hiding behind timing. Your soulmate tried to explain, carefully, defensively. How complicated it had been, how unsure they were, how they didn't want to hurt you. Their friend cut through it with a sentence that became the thesis of their whole undoing. They needed honesty, not perfection. My beloved child, let that line land in you too. Honesty. Not perfection. Because perfection is often just fear in a clean outfit. When the call ended, your soulmate didn't feel magically brave. They felt accountable. And accountability is heavier than romance. Romance is easy to imagine. Accountability requires action. They opened your chat again. The glow of the phone painted their fingers pale. Their thumb hovered. Their heart pounded like it was trying to knock on your door from the inside. They began to type. Draft 1, short, safe, cowardly, hey. Can we talk? They stared at it and felt disgust rise. Too vague. Too convenient. Too much like someone knocking gently after breaking a window. They deleted it. Draft 2, medium, rehearsed. I've been thinking about you a lot. I'm sorry for how distant I've been. They read it twice and felt how it floated above the real damage. How distant I've been sounded like a weather report. Not like abandonment. Not like leaving you to carry uncertainty alone. They deleted it. Draft 3, long, emotional, almost manipulative without meaning to be. I don't even know how to say this, but seeing you today destroyed me. I've been miserable without you and I've been scared and Their throat tightened. They could feel the trap in it, making you responsible for soothing their pain. Turning their regret into your labor. They deleted it. Draft 4, risky, honest, accountable. I told you I love you today, and I know that doesn't fix what my silence did. I don't want a response tonight. I want to name what I did and what I'm willing to change, consistently. Their hands trembled. Because now the message wasn't about getting you back. It was about admitting they had been unsafe with your heart. They stopped typing. Started again. Draft 5, raw, specific, frightening. I disappeared when things got real. That was fear, not maturity. You deserved clarity, not confusion. They stared at that line until their eyes blurred. Then something small but terrifying occurred. The app showed you were online. A green dot. A tiny indicator. A simple sign that you were awake somewhere, living your life, breathing your air, possibly packing boxes, possibly laughing, possibly free. Your soulmate froze. My child, this is where suspense is born. Not from drama. From consequences colliding with timing. They set the phone down. Picked it up. Set it down again. Pause. Time began to measure itself in cruel little units. 30 seconds. Their thumb hovering, not touching. 2 minutes. Their heartbeat refusing to settle. 10 minutes. The room turning stale with unsent truth. They imagined you seeing their name pop up and rolling your eyes. They imagined you blocking them. They imagined you responding with a calm that would hurt more than anger. They imagined you saying, "Why did you wait until you were scared to lose me?" Another imagined line, quiet, devastating, "I'm not a lesson you learned too late." And one more, like a closed door spoken politely, "I hope you heal. But I'm not coming back." But here is what you must remember, my beloved child, imagined pain is not the same as real repair. Fear loves imagination because it gives you the sensation of action without the risk of actually acting. Then came the twist, restrained, human, and sharp enough to change the course. They tapped your profile by accident. Or perhaps on purpose. And they saw it, your status, updated recently, a small line under your name. New number soon. Work relocation. New number. Not a dramatic announcement. Not a threat. Just a boundary disguised as logistics. A clean way to close access without making a scene. Your soulmate's mouth went dry. Because moving is one thing. A new number is another. A move says distance might happen. A new number says access is not guaranteed. And suddenly, the coffee shop confession looked different. Not romantic. Not brave. Late. Too late. They stood, paced again, then sat hard on the edge of the bed like their legs had stopped cooperating. Their minds scrambled for control, plans, timelines, strategies. But control is not what love asks for, my child. Love asks for humility. They opened the message field again and forced themselves to slow down. Not to be poetic. Not to impress you. To be clean. To be true. They typed, then deleted, then typed again, each revision peeling away another layer of self-protection. Their final draft became simpler, heavier, and less flattering to themselves. It included responsibility without theatrics. It included an apology that did not ask you to comfort it. It included a commitment framed as action, not promise. Because they finally understood, if they come to you with words but no change, you are allowed to stay still. You are allowed to listen without surrendering. You are allowed to be discerning. Boundaries are holy, my beloved child, because they protect what is sacred in you from being handled carelessly again. You do not chase. You do not audition for consistency. You do not reward confession if confession is the only thing offered. And yet, you are also allowed to witness truth when it arrives, without letting it rewrite your standards. That balance is wisdom. Your soulmate stared at the send button until it looked like a tiny door they might never walk through. They whispered, small, ashamed, I was afraid. Not as an excuse. As a diagnosis. Then they lifted the phone, thumb hovering, breath shallow. The room felt like it was holding its own breath with them. Another minute passed. 2. The app flickered. Your online status gone now. Were you asleep? Were you busy? Were you ignoring them? Were you already living in a future where their name no longer mattered? They tried to call you instead, just once, then stopped, because a call can be a demand disguised as urgency. A call can corner you. So they did something else. They opened the voice note. The red record button waited like a heartbeat. They pressed it. A timer began, 001. 002. 003. And they spoke softly, as if you were right there, as if your heart were something fragile they were finally handling with two careful hands. But at 011, they stopped. Because they realized they didn't want to perform remorse. They wanted to earn trust. They saved the recording anyway. Unsent. A confession captured but not delivered. Then they went back to the text. The cursor blinked, patient, indifferent. They held their thumb over send until their hand cramped. And in the silence, my beloved child, I want you to feel what is true beneath all this suspense. Love can be real and still not be enough. Love can be present and still not be safe. Love can speak loudly in a coffee shop and still have to prove itself quietly over time. Actions. Consistency. Repair. That is what matters. Your soulmate screen dimmed. They tapped it awake again. Their message, accountable, unadorned, sat there like an offering that could be rejected. A notification flashed at the top, low battery. Even the phone was running out of time. They inhaled. They moved their thumb. And just before they committed, just before the moment tipped from thought into reality, 3 tiny dots appeared at the bottom of the chat. Typing dots. Not from you replying to a message you hadn't received. From you, starting something in the space between. They froze so completely it felt like the whole room turned to stone. Then the dots disappeared. Then they appeared again. Then vanished. Like someone debating whether to open a door they had already closed. Their thumb hovered one final time.